Yeah, I mean, standards are just one piece of the puzzle, right? When we look at instant payments, and I like to think that, it's an interesting analogy because there isn't actually much new under the sun here. Where, these are conversations we've been having for a long time around cross-border interoperability. Instant payment still hasn't achieved that in over 20, 30 years of, pretty heavy deployments around the world. We still haven't achieved this kind of, coherent interoperability at a global level. But I think it's a marriage of standards, which are clearly, vital. And when we talk about standards, I like to kind of not just we don't need to focus just on API standards. Obviously, API standards are the way individual parties communicate with each other, but there are other standards as well, like security standards, identity standards, authentication standards. There's a whole raft of standardization that needs to happen in both communities or whoever is involved in the cross-border initiative. I think, from the payments world, there's a lot of mapping organizations out there. There's lots of organizations that can map between various different standards. You said the famous standards quote early on, Liz. There are so many of them, and lots of businesses make a lot of money out of there being many of them. So I don't see open banking kind of really making a huge difference here. I think there are many organizations that can support multiple formats around the world. The much bigger challenge is harmonization around rules, around operational processes, around legislative frameworks, who can do what and with what data. And that differs wildly between countries. And I think, not even to get into kind of data portability rights and legislation and offshoring data is a really big issue. And I think, the technical challenge is an easy one to fix. The legislative and regulatory challenge is much, much harder and will take sufficient, regulatory input from central banks and other kind of competition regulators around the world. Obviously the European Union has mutual recognition of licensing that allows for passporting, which is fantastic. But that's not a given in other parts of the world. So I think there's a lot still to work on from the legislative side that requires fairly senior buy-in and political will.
I'd love to bring Simon in on this discussion. As Lauren said, it's more than just API standards. Where else should we be looking beyond?
I'm going to be the voice of unreasonableness. When we got the open banking standards in the UK, we had a mandate. So the CMA gave a really big stick for it to happen because to get adoption in the market, you've got to get it set up first of all. It's very hard, and you need two things. You either need a jurisdiction giving you a mandate or a regulator giving you a mandate, or you need an enormous commercial benefit. Now, we can give two examples of them. If you look at MasterCard and the other schemes, I don't recall the names, travel and the standards they created across the world, you needed a card to work in every country. So I think it's TDS and VCF5, I think, are the formats now. MasterCard said every single one that comes back, it's the same every single time. But there was a commercial need because the commercial model supported it. When we look at open banking in the UK, we had the CMA 9 that were mandated to go and build something out. And we look at those standards and everybody, with all due respect to the order, it said it will create competition in retail banking, give a greater choice to retail and small business consumers. It didn't do that. It gave corporates the best tool you could possibly imagine. And the proof of that is look at HMRC, look at Sage Zero QuickBooks. So what you had was they wouldn't use it until they knew it worked, but it wouldn't work until they could use it. So the mandate gave the framework to build the bottom piece as well. And I think with standards as well, we always see them as this finite thing, these tablets of stone taken up onto the mountain. They're not. They should be evolving. I used to work in standards at Pay UK, and I'll give you the perfect example. In the UK, built on open banking principles, on a trust framework is confirmation of payee. There's 452 banks mandated for it by October 31st this year. I'm in the middle of it. It's being picked up all over the world. We are going out as a business in 3 weeks out to another territory to deliver this for somebody else, a full ecosystem. So what somebody's saying is, hey, what you did in the UK, can we pick up and do what you did and drop it somewhere else? And the reason for that is this. What they originally thought it would do again, the high value use cases are not that. They're absolutely not that. They are materially proved in hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds of the savings to be outside of that. So what do we look at beyond standards? We've got to look for massive commercial benefits, and we've got to look for our trigger point, our point that will make it happen for us. And I think we should be much more open that the build it and they will come might not be the right answer. What the right answer will be is who are the people who are going to benefit from it, and let's make sure the benefits are called out before the features. If I could stop one crime in my world, it would be stop talking about how something works and start talking about what it does. I think it's really important.